Good morning, guys. Hopefully, you guys all had a pretty great trading day yesterday. Thoughts on TTI? It looks a little extended here without a base. Yeah, it's too extended. It's like almost 6 times its ATR from the 50, and now it's gapping up again. Not to mention, it only trades 25 million bucks a day. Just too thin, too. Now this one looks a little bit better, but also extended. Now the difference with this one is this was on earnings. Not bad. Little thin, little extended, but not bad. Nice gap up on earnings. My thoughts on Palantir. I kind of like yesterday's really tight inside day. Makes it easy to manage risk if you don't own it and you want to hop aboard. Yeah, I mean, could this be a pullback buy on Qualcomm? Maybe. I don't know if you just get involved in this thing over prior day high or I don't know. I don't know that longing the quantums is the right idea for me. I'm already short Rigetti. So for me, it's just letting these things fade back into oblivion. There was some news on IBM this morning, quantum related, and that's why it had this pop. And the actual quantum turds didn't move at all. So now SNDK, that's a short that I'm actually watching. But this one's going to require WDC to be fading some. It's going to require watching MU fade off some as well. Array. Yeah, it's it's not bad. It's like the one solar stock that really hasn't started to move yet. Like CSIQ, for instance, or all of them. FSLR, Sedge, right? Like FSLR, it's just been in a steady move. NXT has been steady. Yeah, Array's got a nice, it's got a tight setup. So not difficult to limit risk if this starts to move higher. IBKR, it's a part of a strong group, right? The banking / financial stocks are, but do you really want to own this name? That's the question. That's the question. Do you really care to own, something like Morgan Stanley, Goldman Sachs, Wells Fargo? I'm not sure. Yeah, WDC. What a move. SoFi, very nice strength these past 3 days. I'd like to see it backfill just a little bit, but it just kind of goes to show you its own strength. It's just straight up after the washout. And, after earnings, it didn't really go anywhere. It had a big washout and then it bounced right back. Names that bounce right back are always ones to focus on. Focus on the tennis balls, avoid the eggs. I'm hopeful for a little bit of a bigger push. Like if this market stays strong and then you get a push into the 50-day, that could be a spot. Well, how will I know it's time to short SNDK? The problem is I've tried to short that one a couple times and I've been wrong every time. So the one thing that I've been doing that's been kind of saving me, and so that I don't get my ass kicked, is I'm going super small size at first, and I'm only comfortable adding once it's working, right? So like I would need to see some kind of a failure, and then when it pops back up, I want to see it stay heavy, meaning it'll hit, it'll break like intraday VWAP, and then it'll break its opening print, and then it'll break a prior low of day, or intraday low of day, and then it'll go and retest some of those levels. It'll try to go green on the day, it'll fail, and then you'll actually see some buyers stepping in, and then at that point I would be comfortable adding to my position and making it bigger, expecting just a multi-day pullback, right? Something like, realistic, like 20% kind of a pullback, because it'll happen quickly when it does. So, but I don't want to get stubborn with it in any kind of way and just like overly size something that just has not been working. Thoughts on Sedge? I thought this one had a pretty good entry the other day over its earnings high, or really over its earnings close. So 4102. I don't know how I'll get that up on my screen, because I can only share. I'd have to like manually write it in, but I could think of maybe a way to do that. So I'm currently short Cypher, Oklo, and Rigetti, and I'm currently long Ford, NEM, and Tesla. Tesla I've had for, I don't know, a while now, since early September. Rigetti, I shorted this bear flag breakdown. Oklo, I shorted at 146 up here on 1029. Cypher, I shorted at $25, literally on 11.5. Ford, I bought yesterday, trying to come out of this consolidation. I'm up a whopping 2 cents on it. NEM, I bought on Friday. Sold some on Monday, sold a little bit more yesterday, and it's looking pretty dang good. And that's about it. Did I miss one? I don't think I missed any. Thoughts on NEO? I would say let it establish itself a little bit better over the 200. All right, here's my thinking with stocks like NEO. I think it's really important. Let me scoot this over. I think it's really important to, if you have no positions open, I would avoid a name like NEO. And there's a few reasons. One, the 200 simple moving average is still declining. Two, it's not the most highly liquid name. Let me actually see what group it's in. Diagnostics and research. So it's not in like seemingly the worst group, right? It's in a group that's improving. But it's thin. It still has a falling 200. And what I would tell you first is focus on the names that are super liquid. Focus on the names that have gapped up on earnings first, and try to gain traction in those stocks. If you can't gain traction in highly liquid names, you're likely not going to gain traction in a name like NEO. You're just going to end up chopping yourself up, right? So go for the more liquid names first. Like if you can't gain traction in SoFi or in Palantir or in, any one of the names in the market that are going up, that have been leading, like a Robinhood or what have you. Like if you can't gain traction in those stocks, Neo's going to be a little difficult. Dave, I like the base, but man, this thing just trades with too wide of a spread. Just way too wide of a spread. Like if you're taking any kind of meaningful size, yeah, lemonade over the high volume close could be interesting. 78.75, 78.73, same deal. Same deal. VICR is not on my radar.
An XTI acquires drone nerds, close to 25 million.
Yeah, no. It's not on my radar. Nice to see the gap up, but electronic components. Twilio. You bought it on Friday? Nice job. I'm pretty sure this is software application. Yeah, it's starting to look better. I mean, Twilio doesn't look all that bad. TE. Yeah, this one's also not all that terrible. It's a little thin. Some of these names are just super thin, but well, I got stopped out of PL yesterday as soon as it took out prior day low. The best thing I did with PL was I took some off the table. So I bought my PL like in here. And I took some off the table on this fail. And then was half my position. And then the other half my position I took off as soon as we broke low of day. So I didn't have to sit in there while this thing just kept kind of fading. I actually reset an alert on it because it still hasn't broken the 50 simple moving average. I don't necessarily want to short it, but if it could still take out a prior day high, that might be not too bad. QBT, yeah, you could try it if you want it. I'm not interested in these. They make no money. They're a science experiment. They got multi-billion-dollar market caps for making no money. You could try it. I'm not trying to deter you from trying it. But I'm not longing any of these quantum names. I'd rather kind of focus some of my attention onto where money is rotating. And, I'm not entirely convinced that these quantum names are going to see highs anyway. So no, I'm not leaning more bearish. Money, and I've been talking about this, in here and in the Discord, money is going to XLV related names, right? This was buyable on Monday, right? I mean, you didn't have to buy it, but, this was buyable on Monday and nice little push higher. And obviously Lilly has been a monster. I've talked about Intuitive Surgical quite a bit. This one was buyable on Friday. It's like money is going to other places, right? Look at how nice financial stocks look, right? You got the XLF, but look at like a JP Morgan, right? This is at all-time highs. You can't really be bearish when, Goldman Sachs is, ready to go higher, right? So it's like, I'm not leaning bearish. Money's just rotating. I'm bearish on some things, right? I'm bearish on Oklo, even though, it's trying to pop up a little bit after earnings. But, I mean, I'm in from 140s. I'm not really worried about Oklo. And if it gives me another opportunity to add, I will be adding. But, I'm bearish, Oklo, even though, I used to be long Oklo coming out of this really nice consolidation. So, and then once I shorted it, I don't short it unless, I'm negative on it. And price action's telling me to be negative on it. But there's money going to other places, right? Healthcare names, energy stocks, financials, still some growth names are hanging in there. Yeah, I think run's interesting. Just a little bit behind the group. Yeah, I think we're looking at the same thing. I think the bases look great. How do I get involved in a first red day setup? It could just be as simple as a break through red, right? Meaning it's going to break below prior day's close. You also have a break of its opening print, and then you also have a rejection of a prior day high. And it's just as simple as maybe a 620 setup to the downside. How do I look for relative strength? Yeah, over 1 month, 3 month, and a year. I mean, really, I don't go that far out for a year. I go to 6 month as far as I go out. 1 month, 3 month, 6 month. And I use FinViz or Thinkorswim for my scans. Thoughts on Kohl's? Yeah, not bad. Let me see. Department stores. Any other ones acting really well? Macy's, maybe. Yeah, Macy's acting well. TJ Maxx, TJX. Yeah. Yeah, department stores are acting pretty good. Yeah, IBM had some news, some quantum news this morning. F is slower than I typically prefer. Absolutely. Absolutely. But it had a nice setup where I could manage risk, and I've got money to put to work in the market. So if there's money to put to work in the market, I'd rather it working in Ford than it just sitting in cash. Yeah, Palantir could maybe be viable over prior day high. I don't know that it's going to work, but I'll definitely be keeping an eye on it today. You got long ACQ, but you stopped out of nut. Oh, AGQ. You closed out a nugget? I mean, that's still a pretty nice move in nugget. Yeah, Tesla could also be a higher low. I personally like how tight of a day it put in yesterday. Yeah, with Ford, there are other obviously, and they're more like electric vehicle, but like I'm sure you guys have noticed Rivian. I'm sure you guys have noticed XPEV, right? Maybe some of you guys have noticed General Motors. This is actually the one that I'm kind of basing my idea off of for Ford. And then if Tesla starts to go, you're going to have 5 automobile companies that are making nice moves, right? XPEV's a nice move. Rivian's been a nice move. Tesla still looks pretty good. General Motors just recently had a gap up in continuation. Ford had a nice push on earnings, and all it's really done is just kind of consolidate. I don't know if it's going to go right from here, but there's like evidence that the automobile group is acting pretty well. Yeah, Pfizer, bit of a laggard, but love the volume that's coming into this thing. We'll see if it can eventually give a bigger push and then tighten up. Yeah, Nokia, Sony Ericsson, the communication sector. So the XLC ETF, not bad, not bad. AEM versus NEM. I'm already in NEM. Excuse me. Also seems like a lot of long setups are failing. Well, that's not necessarily true. It depends what you're looking at, right? You got to understand money's rotating. So, are you looking at where money is rotating to? I mean, because if I look at some names myself, I could find a bunch of stocks that aren't failing. When I say thin, you mean they need a longer base? No. When I say thin, I'm talking about average daily dollar volume, right? I mean, they're trading like $30 million a day. Why does QTUM look better than the underlying assets? Well, do you know who the largest holdings in QTUM are? Let me tell you right now. The biggest holdings in QTUM, no, let's start with Rigetti. Okay, that's fine. Then you just recently had a name in TER that's still been going vertical. MU is the third largest holding. Well, MU's been going vertical. TSEM is another one. This one's been going vertical. AMD is another one, and this one's been going vertical. COHR just gapped up on earnings. I think you read the word quantum as the ETF, but you don't realize that the top holdings outside of Rigetti are all acting pretty dang well. And really now IONQ. But the rest of the holdings are all acting great. It could be. Yeah, it could be that Hood's ready for a bigger pause. I'm not sure. It seems like in this market, names have been, going for longer. So it's possible that Hood just consolidates here a bit more and then eventually is ready to go higher. Yeah, I'm just going to be watching. It doesn't necessarily mean that I take it. But if we're going to start to take out yesterday's highs, I could be interested in PL again. I'll be keeping an eye on Joby. Don't hate it. Don't love it. What's the difference with ASTS though? And I wouldn't say that it's coiling just like NEM, right? You can't really compare those two names. They're in completely different groups, and this doesn't really have that same kind of a look. But the difference with ASTS is the stocks around it aren't acting all that great at the moment, right? Rocket Lab's not acting the best. KTOS recently had a gap down on earnings. LOAR, which is another aerospace and defense name, isn't looking all that hot. Just had earnings this morning. We'll see what it does. MRCY, another aerospace and defense stock, starting to roll over below the 50. If this name starts to see some rotation away from it, ASTS isn't going to be spared. So the difference with the gold stocks is they have pushed higher. Maybe ASTS does something similar, but sloppy base, but tightening. I don't really see a spot for it just yet. QS, same deal. Sloppy base, but also tightening. Again, I don't really see a spot for me to buy it just yet. I'll keep it. I always have my eye on the semi sector. I just don't love the look on these, man. Something. I don't know. I don't know what to tell you about them. I wish they looked a little bit more appealing, but you can only hang on to this 50-day so many times before you crack it. It feels like. We'll see if AMD gives a boost to the whole sector. Yeah, VLO, CRK, yeah, XOM. Yeah, the energy sector is really starting to shape up nicely. Probably takes a bit of a pullback today, but it still looks really good. Yeah, Corning, this looks awesome too. I don't know that I will be, but I've got my eye on it. There's a chance that I do, but I'm not sure if the market is going to take a bit of a pause today. I'm going to wait at least the first 15 minutes of the open before I really do anything, especially on another gap up this morning. Not really trying to get aggressive in front of gap ups, which is exactly what we're going to have. So, yeah, bullish, bearish depends on the group. That's exactly right. Where's money going? Where's money leaving? I'm not long ARK anymore, unfortunately. So I sold it like a schmuck. I was using that $78 level. And as soon as we started to kind of crack that $78 level, effectively, I held it through this morning bounce. And then as soon as we started to roll over, I cut it. I'm literally professional right at the bottom before it actually bounced. So, but doesn't matter. I had it from $59. It wasn't really some big position. I only had 8,000 shares left, so it was kind of good to just let it go. AMD looks good here. Yeah, I don't know that I'm comfortable chasing a 6% gap up. Right? Don't know that I'm comfortable chasing a 6% gap up. So we closed at 237, and we are at, I'm not going to be chasing a 6% gap up today. So just not going to happen. Not in this market. Transmedics. Nice base being built. And a super, super tight day. I actually like this name. They do organ transplants. Very cool. Yeah, I looked at that pump. Not bad. Just a touch thin. Dillard's chart looks decent. The retail stock's looking good. That'll tell us something, right? Dillard's. Another thin one, though. Crazy how this thing is a $620 stock and only trades $60 million a day. Did I think upgrading? Yeah, I like upgrading to a paid. I don't mind it at all. Plus, no ads. Can't beat that. Is CRDO just gapping up a little bit because is CRDO gapping up a little bit because of AMD? Maybe. Or because of the market? It's possible. This one's not as big of a gap up as it is on AMD, 3%. We'll see. Could be that you just gap up and then you get a 5-minute opening range break in the morning, or you gap up and there's instant profit taking. Either way, I'm not going to be involved for at least the first 15 minutes of market open. I do use the institutional actions on one of my screens. But that's it. The rest of my screeners don't have that. FLNC. Yeah, not bad. Not bad. I don't know when they have earnings coming up, but I'm assuming pretty soon. Earnings on the 24th. So you got like 12 days. Not bad. What am I looking at to add? What I would kind of be looking for would be a bigger push. I like this 114 level again, which is where it found support. And then it's kind of where it started to find resistance yesterday or 2 days ago, and then rolled over. Any kind of push into that 114 level, I would be interested again. Really, maybe even as good, nice of a push as to prior day high, that 111 level, but higher the better. Higher the better. Otherwise, I'll just sit with what I have. So I had quite a few shares from $146. I got some covers off at 126 in this push. I got some more covers off sub 100 right down here. And then I'm just sitting on the last piece. So oh, very nice. You learn to spot tighter entries. Your average loss is 0.3 to 0.4. You could probably get that loss percent down even more. You could probably get that down even more. Focus on your position sizing. If you're taking a little bit bigger position sizing, then 0.3, 0.4 is manageable. But there do come periods where you're going to lose 10 in a row, right? Or 12 in a row, 15 in a row. Like, you don't necessarily want to give back 5-6% of the portfolio. Not like that's not anything you can't overcome, but just kind of keep that in mind. You could probably get it down. Trade bigger when you're trading better. CVI, yeah, not bad. Unfortunately, some of these are just too thin for me, so I can't really trade any of these, man. It looks nice. Again, on the flip side, some people will call this, maybe a bear flag. If this is a stock that's in a really nice. This is where I liked CVI. Hell of a move since. I still think it looks good. Yeah, Ford has a good base. Yeah, I thought so. I thought it was good enough. And I do have a shitload of shares. I've got a bundle. No, I don't think so. I mean, yeah, maybe because it didn't bounce as hard as, Palantir or Nvidia. Yeah, we could look at it like it's, shown some relative weakness, but it's had its event out of the way, the investor meeting, it had the pay anywhere, right? It's just still going sideways. So, I don't hate it. I don't hate the way it's been acting. As long as we're living above Friday's lows, it's all good. Yeah, I don't mind AVGO, but it's going to have to obviously hold the 50, and I would need to see it take out a prior day high. Caterpillar's far too slow. Maybe for me, I could play a Caterpillar, probably not a name you want. And just a touch extended from the 50 simple moving average. No, I don't have a way to get into XPEV here at the moment. I slept good too. XLK, yeah, it looks good. It looks a lot like these and then small. I mean, it looks obviously a lot like it's going to look a lot like Nvidia, this technology sector, right? I mean, you'll notice the XLK. It might as well just be renamed Nvidia, right? So asking me if I like the XLK is asking me if I like a slower version of Nvidia. So if I'm going to get involved in the XLK, I might as well just buy Nvidia. I mean, these charts look identical, don't they? There's your XLK. Here's Nvidia. They look identical. Dave is fine. Nice tight day yesterday. I don't like the spread that it trades with. Real, isn't this like a clothing brand? Nice. Yeah, ARQT is not bad. Not bad. But if I'm not mistaken, isn't this like a biotech? Yeah, no, pass. Unless you know everything that there is to know about this biotech, PDUFA dates, how much cash they have on hand, any FDA meetings they got coming up, everything about them, then it's just a pass. You got to make sure that you work that out with your CPA. How do I navigate watch sale rules with re-entering PL after a loss? I just rebuy the damn thing again. But you have to talk to your CPA. Make sure that, I mean, I can't tell you how to file your taxes, but I file with trader tax status, and I file mark to market. So if you're thinking about it, would be my guess. How many days do you need for earnings flags and gap ups to develop? Well, if something gaps up on earnings, I think that they're buyable as early as day 2 as high volume close setups. So it just depends if that's the environment that we're in. Yeah, VIST, not bad. Looked like it was buyable yesterday. Maybe a little bit of relative weakness out of Tesla, but you're living above the 50 simple moving average. Looks fine. Do you use your 5-monitor setup to look concurrently on NQ? I'm looking at futures markets, so I'm looking at like crude oil, gold, Bitcoin, Ethereum, the Russell, NASDAQ, S&P 500. So I'm looking at futures markets. I'm looking at stocks that actually move the market, like very liquid leaders, whether it's, names that have been in uptrends like MU, SNDK, Apple. And then like as names kind of fall off like Meta, I just kind of remove that from my focus in any kind of way. And then I'm looking at like growth stocks. I'm looking at the names that I'm trading directly on this screen chart that you guys are looking at is just one of the many charts on my 5 screens. So yes, it helps me get, and then I've got a bunch of watch lists open, right, and scans open, so I can get a sense of, without having to look at all the charts, what's actually going on underneath the surface, and I've got about 10 scanners open in front of me at any one time. You don't need it. It might be overkill, but it helps me kind of understand what's moving and when it's moving. So I kind of like to know what's going on at all times while I'm sitting here. Ethereum can't catch a break these days. Yeah, that or Bitcoin isn't acting all that well. Wolf holding the 50 after earnings. Yeah, Wolf also got its ass kicked yesterday. So, I wouldn't necessarily consider buying. Maybe today it does. Bitcoin, not as interesting as maybe IBIT. I mean, look, we're hanging in there. We are literally flirting with the 200 simple moving average. If you're a Bitcoin bull, you have to hold the 200 simple moving average. I thought EOSE was viable last Friday. Yeah, I mean, we're gapping up this morning. Yeah, maybe back over yesterday's highs is possible. I don't think CVI is lagging. No, CVI is in a nice uptrend and a new uptrend. If they can set me a spot, I'll get into them. I've noticed the strength. I have not gotten into either of them. You're thinking you should start buying NUE? I mean, how many times do you think you need to buy it? Why would you need to start? I don't think the steel sector has that much strength just yet. Could be REAL is a nice high volume close setup. Yeah. Right? Depends what you're trading. On with a nice quarter. Actually, NAIM came down to 90, so it actually fell quite a bit. Yeah, Futu's not bad. Futu, I've got an eye on this thing if it's going to take out prior day high. LRCX, this one's been one of the leading semis. Yeah, not bad. A little bit more digestion here would be good. It depends what name I'm looking at, but if we're taking out a high volume close, I would. There are instances where I would buy it right away. Casey's so slow. Probably not a name you should be trading, honestly. This isn't a name you really trade. It's like one of those names that you own. Right? Like, look at how, even though it goes up, like, look at how choppy this is for long periods of time. It just does nothing. And then it grinds up, and then it just does not. Like, could you imagine your money just, like, sitting here? Like, in this 20-point range, moving 2% per day? Even though it's, like, trending up. It's not that great. I think VIST looks fine. It was buyable yesterday if you were ready for it. I don't think we're late to the party on XPEV, but I just don't see a setup for it today. Intel, good, not great. Needs to take out a prior day high. Sorry, guys. I don't know if I just got to move my mic closer or what the deal is, but yeah, normally there isn't sound issues, so I'm assuming it's probably got to do with for people on. I don't know if it's just an issue through StreamYard today. Not sure what's going on. Sorry about that, guys. Yeah, there's no real setup to get into VLO here. You know, a couple days ago, off of so commodities, you really want to buy your commodities off of ascending moving averages. Yeah. Oh my God, Apple, that little iPhone pocket. What is that? What's funny is that if every iPhone user buys an iPhone pocket, they'll make more money than like some of these. They'll make more money than OpenAI. If every iPhone user buys an Apple pocket or iPhone pocket. Yeah, normally audio is not so bad. I'm assuming it's like a StreamYard issue or. But yeah, if everybody buys just an iPhone pocket, we all chip in and everybody gets themselves one, Apple's going to be a runaway train. Yeah, man, it's very embarrassing, honestly. We're in the middle of a next revolution in terms of technology, and that's the best that Apple's coming up with. I mean, just imagine. Just imagine. We're in the middle of like this insane technology, and that's what they're doing. Yeah, I was looking at on, but there's nothing for me to do here. Really nice move up, but still well below the 200 student character. Maybe a double bottom, right? But not one that I'm going to get involved in. Right? You're still below a falling 200. You know, if this thing's ever going to make a big move, it's going to get above the 200 and then establish itself above the 200, and then, you know, we can trend somewhat. But guys, I just realized the time. Sorry about the audio. I am on tomorrow, no Friday. I will be traveling on Thursday. So hopefully you guys all have a super awesome trading day today, and I will see you guys bright and early tomorrow morning. Now it sounds better? Of course it does. Of course, that's how it works out. I will see you guys tomorrow. Have a great one.